We recognize the independence of Ukraine, no doubt about this. It is not for territories for us. It is about the people who have been living on those lands for centuries. The reason is very simple. We need a buffer zone because Ukrainians continue shelling, bombing, droning Russian territory, including the territories which never were challenged by anybody. The new territories which you mentioned, they are not actually new territories, they are historic Russian territories. Yes, after the Soviet Union disappeared, this was left inside the former Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, and there was no thought, that this Slavic republic could have leadership which would go the way the Nazis went before World War II. We recognize the independence of Ukraine, no doubt about this, but we could never think that the people who live on these territories which you listed, which are now in our constitution, that these people would be considered second sort, especially after the coup 11 years ago in February 2014, when the putschists took power by illegal bloody coup. It is not for territories for us. It is about the people who have been living on those lands for centuries, more than 300 centuries. They were building cities, including the city of Odessa, a very famous place which was founded by Catherine the Great, whose monument recently was removed by Zelensky government, who would like to forget all parts of history which one way or another link Ukrainians and the Russians. But this is going to fail. He cannot undermine this. People now say ceasefire, ceasefire. We know that they want just to buy some time again, and that this logic, which is deeply rooted in Zelensky, whatever moves him, head, brain, is obvious for any objective observer. When we now liberate remaining parts of Zaporozhzhia, this is the Russian way to pronounce it, and Kherson, the people, in spite of the attempts of Ukrainian army to pull them into mainland Ukraine, they are not, most of them are not leaving. They are staying and they are welcoming the Russian soldiers who liberate them. So this is not our will, our imperialist desire, some people say. This is our concern for the future of the people who feel being part of the Russian culture. When Starmer said that Putin is the only one who is against negotiations, he should remember about his former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. He should remember about those in Germany and in France who signed the deal and then a few years later admitted that they never intended to do this, in spite of the fact that it had been endorsed by the Security Council. And then Starmer continued to say that Putin must stop atrocities, must stop killing children, and he must withdraw to the borders of 1991. On children, it's a shame. I mean, the amount of lies, the amount of propaganda is astonishing. We have been hearing that tens of thousands of children has been stolen by Russia from their parents, and after the Istanbul process started this year, there were 3 rounds. At the very first meeting, our delegation asked Ukrainians, guys, you are concerned about the kids. Can we get the list of those kids who are missing? It took some time. Eventually, we received the list of 339 names. 339. No 10,000, not even 1,000. And we checked that list. A huge part of it are not kids, are grown-ups. Many have been verified as being in Europe. So when you listen this, but Starmer keeps saying that we must stop hijacking children. And as for 1991 borders, and Russia must withdraw, okay, hypothetically, in their dreams and delusions, if we leave the territories inside the 1991 Ukrainian borders, what happens to those people whom they publicly called, the respective governments of Ukraine after the coup called them inhumans, called them specious? Specious, by the way, is the term used by Zelensky long before the special operation started. He was asked what he thought about those people. He said, you know, there are people and there are species. And if you live in Ukraine and feel like being part of Russian culture, my advice to you, for the sake and safety of your kids, for the sake and safety of your grandchildren, get out to Russia. So, in fact, Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporozhzhia, and Kherson, the population of these 4 territories, they follow his advice. They go back to Russia. Now, the Europeans are trying to dominate the agenda with the rhetoric about ceasefire. They zigzagging, depending on what is going on the front line. We are convinced that to save the people from the Nazist regime, the people who have always been part of the Russian culture, they spoke Russian language, they were teaching their children in Russian, they watched Russian movies, they got news from the Russian media outlets. The root cause, number one, NATO, because it was intended to pull Ukraine into NATO and to build military bases in Crimea, on the Sea of Azov, just on our doorsteps. And I quoted President Trump, who bluntly explained why it's absolutely unacceptable to Russia, and everybody must understand this. But another root cause is extermination of everything Russian: history, language, media, culture, education, toppling and destroying the monuments to the Russian representatives who founded Ukraine in the eastern and southern part, toppling the monuments to those who saved Ukraine and Europe from Hitler and his Nazist troops. People only ask, when are you going to end the war? When are you going to have a ceasefire? It's not honest, if you wish. An honest discussion would be to tell Ukrainians, before anything else, restore the language rights for restore all national minority rights, because your constitution says so. Ukrainians try to be very specific in discriminating Russian language and trying to make some concessions for the language of the European Union. There is no single international convention which says that there are some languages which are more important than others. It's like Orwell, you know, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. It's not, I think, appropriate when people say, when are you going to end the war? Where are you going to stop? Zaporozhye, are you going to give it back? actually, we now have taken some other territories which are not, which do not belong to the regions reflected now in our constitution. The reason is very simple. We need a buffer zone because Ukrainians continue shelling, bombing, droning Russian including the territories which never were challenged by anybody. I mean Bryansk, Belgorod, Kursk, and so root causes. That's what must be key to understanding how to help end this situation efficiently, and thinking not about grabbing back territories, not about saving political losers who are ruling in Kyiv, but thinking about the people who, you know, should be the utmost concern of those who say that they are champions of democracy.